How are you, XRP Army? There is important news about the Fed that you need to know about, as well as some things that Trump has been saying online. I'm really looking forward to talking about all of these things, so let's get right to them. In this case, the first thing I want to stress is that the Fed is late. This is something that Trump was right about, which may or may not come as a surprise to different people, but I wanted to make this point. Not to talk about politics, it has become very clear in recent months that the data the Fed was using was completely wrong. The jobs data was wrong, the inflation number was wrong, and so on. I don't want to brag, but I've been talking about this for years. You can watch videos of mine from 2 years ago where I said that all of the data the Fed uses is wrong and should be taken with a grain of salt. And sure enough, they're making even bigger changes to the data they present now, not just small ones. It's like hundreds of thousands of jobs that are wrong, or inflation that is wrong by several percentage points at times. The Fed will say that the job market is strong and that everything is going well, but in reality it's in chaos and falling apart, and many people are telling them they're wrong. The Fed will say that they're right, but then they'll change their mind 3 or 4 months later and say, oh yeah, we were wrong about all this and we need to cut rates right away. But it looks like Trump was right 5 months ago. It was almost like he was telling them, cut rates now, you need to do this, the American economy needs this. Powell said that we don't have enough information yet and that the job market is strong. They're not at all though, and I think this makes Americans and many other people around the world feel bad again. This is because the US dollar is the world's reserve currency, and if the US economy is badly run, it affects everyone in the world. And so people say, yeah, get rid of this Fed. If they're using fake data to hurt the economy for the benefit of a small group of smart people, then what's the point of having them? They're not like an elected government office in that they serve the people. Rich business elites put them there because they want certain market events to happen at certain times so they can make money. I think the recent events from the Fed are really important based on the information we have now and the information the Fed is admitting now. We'll talk more about the Fed and these crazy events. We can see that they're getting their message across, but there are also some huge things going on in the stock market and the cryptocurrency market that are affecting each other. The first thing is that Robinhood stock is now officially part of the S&P 500. You might be wondering, Levi, what does it matter? For example, Robinhood is a silly exchange that does things like list stocks, crypto, and other things. But Robinhood is doing something really big behind the scenes that some of you might not know about. They want to tokenize the whole stock market on blockchain so that regular people like you and me can trade in it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, this is such a big deal because if they are able to pull it off and regular investors choose to use this service, which, let's face it, is better than the current stock market, which isn't open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, thousands of dollars will be able to flow through blockchain technology in a way that has never been seen before. According to Robinhood's announcements, most of this will likely happen on the Ethereum blockchain. However, it could also happen on other blockchains once these kinds of things start going cross-chain. So if this does work and trillions of dollars start flowing through blockchain technology for trading stocks, gold, silver, and every other commodity and real-world asset, this will definitely raise the boats for the whole crypto industry. Robinhood's listing on the S&P 500 is a huge step toward mainstream adoption by Wall Street and other people who realize that this is probably the future and there's really nothing that can stop it at this point. Individual investors are getting more involved in the markets than ever before. If you look at this chart, you can see that individual investors have been going crazy for all kinds of tech stocks. The growth has been huge, and of course we hit a peak in May for pretty much everything. Since then we've been recovering, but the Fed cutting rates, which we'll talk about in a moment, is definitely going to be something that will drive more investment. In the past, we've seen a 95% price correlation between the two. Tesla, Amazon, you name it, retail is piling into tech, and they're piling into cryptocurrency, which is of course a massive technology too. And so when you combine the two, when you combine tech stocks with crypto, I think it's going to be an explosive wave of adoption. I really do think so. It's going to become more widely available. And I think that's another huge benefit too. If you think about it right now, if people want to get access to crypto, or just the stocks, they need to go through different financial institutions in the United States or centralized entities, which might not be attractive to them, right? Some people just don't want to, do that, and maybe their countries block that. But when you go into the world of cryptocurrency, you no longer have these rail guards everywhere for, barrier of entry to get into the stock market, to get into all this stuff. It starts to become more decentralized, meaning anybody can access these systems as long as they have an internet connection, and your country can no longer stop you because they don't control the bank. You're not using the bank which they control, sorry. And so it gives you a lot more options. So I do think, tokenizing the stock market is also going to see a lot more people on an international scale able to enter the US markets when they previously were not able to do so. I mean, just look at how much regulation and enforcement actions there are in countries like Pakistan, for example, or Russia or China. All these markets, for the first time ever, will have a much easier path with less resistance to get into these markets. And as we've seen from this bull run retail adoption, even the smaller holders, people that have $1,000, they drive immense amounts of price action when they pile in the millions. And I mean, all those countries I just mentioned have more than 1 billion people in population when you combine all of them. So yeah, it's quite amazing to see. And I think it's going to be pretty amazing to, just basically see this in action once it starts to happen from Robinhood. So huge props to Robinhood for, doing that okay.